In Cambodia, there are places where ancestral rites are celebrated with a breakfast meal, and a pink curtain can be used as a wedding invitation. A child learns to bow before learning to read, and a wedding begins with a haircut. Not for beauty. The things you are about to learn are not in tourist ads. They are not set to a grand soundtrack. But they exist quietly, persistently, in the way a nation keeps its faith through concrete actions every day. This is Cambodia, not in postcards, but in what really runs its society. Not in hyperbole. Deep, real. Number 1. The breath of primitive Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism is not just a religion in Cambodia, it is the spiritual lifeblood of nearly 17 million people here. About 95% of the population is practicing it. And that number is not just a statistic, it is an unbroken continuity of doctrine and way of life. Pagodas are more than just structures. In Cambodia, each pagoda is a social center where children come to learn, the elderly seek peace, and communities seek advice in times of conflict or loss. Almost every village has a central pagoda where people gather not just to worship, but to live, celebrate, study, and exchange. A special point is the social role of monks. They are not only practitioners, but also educators, psychotherapists, and keepers of collective memory. An elderly monk in Battambang province once shared that every morning after chanting, he spent time meeting local residents from mothers who lost their children to people involved in lawsuits or students who could not afford to go to school. In those situations, he did not give personal advice, but reminded them of the precepts, quoted the Buddha's teachings, and used religious wisdom to solve practical problems. Buddhism here is not hidden in scriptures. It is present in every expression, word, and behavior. From the act of folding hands in greeting, called sampaya, to stepping lightly when entering a sacred space, all are taught from a young age. Cambodian children, especially in rural areas, are often taken to pagodas by their parents during festivals or when there is a sad event in the family. Many children are even sent to pagodas to live with monks to learn to read and write and practice morality, a traditional approach to Khmer education that is still maintained today. It is worth noting that many Cambodian monks engage in spiritual healing rituals. They use Buddhist scriptures, holy water, red strings, and incense to ward off negative energy. These rituals are not superstitious, but are practiced as part of a culture of community healing. For people, going to a monk is not necessarily out of absolute faith, but because it is the last place they can find comfort and a sense of security. In addition, Buddhism in Cambodia has a strong national character. The state recognizes this religion as the state religion and financially supports major festivals such as Vesak Buddha's birthday. Temple infrastructure is preserved with state funds. However, it is worth observing how this religion intervenes in social issues in a flexible, non-extremist way. When there are controversies about social morality, such as the increasing divorce rate, or the disoriented youth, Buddhist seminars are organized to reorient life values. In urban life, especially in Phnom Penh, many young people go to temples not for traditional beliefs, but to meditate to find balance amid work pressures. Weekend meditation classes at Wat Lanka, one of the oldest temples in the capital, regularly attract hundreds of attendees, mostly office workers and students. This is the clearest sign that Buddhism in Cambodia is not stuck in the past, but is adapting to survive in modern society. It would be a mistake to view Cambodian Buddhism only through the lens of belief. It is an ethical structure, a network of relationships, an invisible operating system in society. In the way Cambodians behave, earn a living love worship, there is a red thread connecting to the Buddha's words. And that is the reason why this place is not only considered a Buddhist country, but also a living space imbued with the original, simple, unpretentious, but sustainable Buddhist spirit. Number 2. Traces of an empire. Before Theravada Buddhism shaped Cambodia into what it is today, the land was a vibrant center of Hindu civilization. During the Khmer Empire, from the 9th to the 13th centuries, the worship of Vishnu and Shiva spread, leaving a strong mark on architecture, society, and royal ritual. The most eloquent evidence is Angkor Wat, the world's largest religious structure, built to honor Vishnu before being converted to Buddhism a few centuries later. Early temples such as Phnom Bakheng, Banteay Srey, and Preah Ko are heavily Dravidian in style, modeled after South Indian temples, with the main tower representing Mount Meru, the seat of the gods in Indian cosmology. The flow of Hindu mythology is carved into each block of stone. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the incarnations of Vishnu, and the story of Shiva. Destroying evil, all are detailed on the temple walls like wordless scriptures. A lesser-known but symbolically powerful site is Kabal Spine, where hundreds of linga representing Shiva are carved into the riverbed, forming a sacred spring. During the rainy season, water from the Kulin Mountains that flows through this area is believed to be infused with sacred energy and then flows down to irrigate the Siem Reap plains. This is not just a belief, but also a mindset that combines religion with irrigation, a technological feat of sacralizing natural resources. Although Hinduism fell from the mainstream religion after the 14th century, many rituals and philosophical concepts remained. In modern Cambodian royal coronations, the rituals of bathing in holy water, wearing the crown, and performing rituals under sacred stupas all have their origins in Brahmanical traditions. Brahmin priests called Baku are still invited from traditional clans to preside over major ceremonies such as rain-praying ceremonies or royal entrance ceremonies. Not only rituals, but also the ancient Khmer people's concept of power and the universe originated from Hinduism. The kings of the Angkor period were considered Devaraja, the god-king, the incarnation of Shiva on earth. This is what made the temple architecture always have a cosmic central structure, with the main temple located at the highest position, symbolizing the world of the gods. Traces of Hinduism are also preserved through groups of artisans who specialize in stone carving and ancient architectural preservation. Some sandstone carving techniques have been passed down orally through families of artisans from the Angkorian period who continue to work with UNESCO projects to preserve the sites. It is worth noting that although most Cambodians no longer worship Vishnu or Shiva, in the traditional way these symbols are still cherished as part of the national soul. The Khmer did not abandon Hinduism, they absorbed it and made it the basis for subsequent belief systems. A person burning incense at the feet of a statue of Vishnu in a Buddhist temple is not seen as a conflict of faith, but as an expression of spiritual tolerance that has developed over 1,000 years of history. Religions are not mutually exclusive in Cambodia. They are continuous complementary and coexist on the same sacred ground. And that is why Cambodia is not only considered the cradle of Buddhism in the lower Mekong region, but also the place where the largest religious currents in Asia once met, intertwined, and left behind a multi-layered, multi-meaning cultural layer. Number 3. NEAK and Indigenous beliefs. Every community, every village, every land has its own NEAK. Often considered a spirit that resides in a specific object, such as a tree, a rock, a hill, or a crossroads. NEAK has no specific form, but is believed to have the ability to protect or punish the local people. The name NEAK is simply understood as the ancestor of the place, a concept that closely connects the community and the natural environment in which they live. The NEAK shrines, usually small and rustic, located on the side of village roads or in the middle of fields, are where communal worship ceremonies take place. People bring flowers, coconut water, rice, wine, tobacco, and of course, betel and areca, nuts, simple but respectful offerings. They do not pray for wealth, but for health, good harvests, and peace for the village. The ceremonies do not take place regularly, but only when there is an incident, an epidemic drought crop failure, or an unusual accident. It is worth noting that NEAK does not operate in isolation from Buddhism. In many modern Khmer temples, there are still small altars dedicated to local deities placed next to Buddha statues. Monks play a moral role, but when villagers need to resolve important matters related to the earth spirit, they still seek out the temple keeper, usually an elder or a medium who has passed on the profession for generations. This is evidence of a belief system that does not cancel each other out, but rather coexists in a division of functions. In recent decades, as urbanization has spread, many NEAK shrines have been forgotten or moved to make way for new structures. However, a remarkable revival is taking place among some young communities that love Khmer culture. Many groups organize the annual NEAK festival as a cultural activity, not just a religious one. There, people including those born after 2000 still wear checkered scarves, prepare offerings, sing and dance, and reenact the ritual of worshiping the village god, just as their ancestors did. From an anthropological perspective, the NEAK religion is more than a relic of the past. It is living proof that a belief system can coexist with modernization as long as the community values the relationship between people and their living space. Cambodia has chosen to preserve these with both reverence and adaptation, making NEAK an irreplaceable part of the country's spiritual identity. Number 4. The Pchum Festival. Every year, around late September or early October, Cambodians celebrate Pchum, when the spirits of their ancestors are believed to leave the spirit world and return to the living world. For 15 days, the entire society changes its rhythm. Temples are more crowded than usual, people dress more formally, and rural roads leading home become busier. The climax falls on the 15th day, known as Ben Tom, when families head to the temple where their ancestors lived, offering rice fruit and prayers. The special feature of Pchum is the concept of unliberated souls. The Khmer believe that throughout the year, souls that are not offered sacrifices will wander between the two realms without a place to stay. Only on this occasion does the gate between the living and the dead open, and the soul has the opportunity to eat and receive merit from its descendants. Offerings are made in the early morning before dawn, usually rice balls, bananas, porridge cakes, accompanied by prayers mentioning the name of the deceased. The ritual is not just symbolic, it is the realization of the bond between the past and the present. At large temples such as Wat Phnom Penh or Wat Nokor Kampong, Pchum becomes a major community event. People arrive early, sometimes as early as 4 a.m., carrying offerings prepared the night before. Groups of people circle the main hall in silence, then kneel down to listen to the monks chant prayers for the dead. The atmosphere is especially quiet, not because there are not enough people, but because everyone is in a deep spiritual state, connecting with their ancestors. Pchum is more than just a religious ceremony. It plays an important social role in maintaining traditional family structures. During this time, urban Cambodians often return to their hometowns to reconnect with their families, relatives, and village communities. Conflicts are often put aside during this time, as everyone shares the same goal to send merit to the deceased. It is this bond that makes Pchum Ben a rare time of year when generations come together to perform a highly collective ritual. Number 5. Cambodia among the spiritual powers of Asia. When you compare Cambodia to other leading spiritual countries in Asia, such as Thailand, Laos, India, or Bhutan, it is easy to see the common point. All have a strong belief structure attached to a long-standing culture. But what makes Cambodia special is the way the major religious currents, Buddhism, Hinduism, Indigenous beliefs are not separated, but blended into a multi-layered belief system coexisting in real life. In Thailand, Theravada Buddhism enjoys a similar dominance as in Cambodia, but is more institutionalized and controlled. The country has more than 300,000 monks managed by a national church system, tightly controlled by the royal family and the state. Buddhist rituals in Thailand, while widespread, tend to be highly standardized from the way temples are built to the chants. Cambodia, on the other hand, maintains a degree of flexibility and fusion between orthodoxy and locality. In a Khmer village, a monk might give a sermon in the morning and then join the community in the afternoon for a NEAK rain ceremony, a rarity in Thailand. Laos is the closest case to Cambodia in terms of religious structure. Both follow Theravada Buddhism, both have wet rice agriculture as their cultural foundation, and both maintain many indigenous rituals. However, the scale and role of Buddhism in Lao society is less political. Religion here is like an underground stream, a gentle, quiet presence, not heavily exploited in the tourism economy or media. Cambodia, on the other hand, is a country standing at a crossroads. On one side is a vibrant spiritual identity. On the other side is the pressure of integration and commercialization. India is a religious melting pot. Home to Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism, it has the highest religious diversity in Asia. However, this diversity is accompanied by ethnic religious tensions, especially between Hindus and Muslims. Cities such as Varanasi, Bodh Gaya, and Rishikesh attract large numbers of pilgrims, but at the same time, they face overcrowding and commercial exploitation of sacred spaces. Cambodia, though much smaller, has the advantage of keeping its sacred sites intact without being assimilated into mass products. If analyzed based on specific criteria, Cambodia has a unique position. In terms of cultural depth, this country has preserved the ancient sediments from the Angkor civilization without being reduced to a mass product. In terms of adaptability, traditional belief systems such as NEAK still exist alongside Orthodox Buddhism without functional conflicts. In terms of management, Cambodia still lacks a mechanism to control the commercialization of heritage, causing some spiritual sites to be transformed into tourism products too quickly. In terms of identity, Cambodia is different in its ability to connect the local community and beliefs, when a ritual is not just a temple's affair, but a village's affair. Statistics from the Cambodian Ministry of Tourism in 2023 show that more than 70% of international visitors to the country are motivated by learning about cultural and spiritual heritage. But to retain them in the long term, Cambodia cannot rely solely on monuments like Angkor Wat. A strategy is needed to clarify the role of intangible elements, ritual dances, village beliefs, and the way local communities preserve their identity through generations. In the big picture, Cambodia does not need to compete with Thailand in terms of tourism infrastructure, nor does it need to copy the strict control model of Bhutan. The true value of this country lies in the fact that each symbol, each ritual, each sacred space is still closely linked to the lives of the people. A community that can worship ancestors, study meditation, and live in a modern system is proof of a flexible and still pulsing spirituality. Number 6. The Love Hut and Sacred Tattoos. In the mountains of Ratanakiri province, the Krung people, one of the largest indigenous groups in Cambodia, still maintain a custom that few places in Asia still retain. When a girl in the village reaches puberty, her parents build her a private hut next to her house. No one supervises, no one interferes. In that space, the girl has the right to invite her boyfriend to talk, get to know each other, and decide who is suitable for a serious relationship. There is no rule about how long this process lasts. When both feel they have enough trust and understanding, they report back to their families to get married. The wedding ceremony will be simple, but deeply communal. What is special marriages here rarely break down. Without any major religious influence, this custom reflects a very clear concept of commitment. Love does not come from pressure, but from understanding. There are no rituals to intervene, no religious rules to define. But underneath that, freedom lies a strong communal moral foundation where the intrinsic value of each individual honesty responsibility is silently monitored through the eyes of the village. In other regions, beliefs about women's beauty, virtue, and destiny are tied to body-marking rituals. In some ancient Khmer villages, a secret tattooing tradition still exists for girls who are considered by the community to have special qualities. The tattoos are usually very small, located on the back of the neck, the wrist, or the inside of the ear. The chosen person must meet both criteria, physical beauty and proper behavior. The decision is not made by individuals, but by village elders after long observation. The tattooists are Kru priests or shamans who are knowledgeable about spiritual symbols and sacred times. Before getting a tattoo, they ask permission from their ancestors, choose a symbol that suits the soul of the person being tattooed, and do it using traditional methods. In many cases, the girl is not allowed to show her tattoo to anyone except her future husband. It is not a body decoration. It is a way for society to recognize dignity, to recognize a rare type of personal energy. In traditional Khmer wedding ceremonies, a common feature is the red string tied around the wrists of the bride and groom by elders. Each string is tied with a wish, a commandment, or a sacred message about loyalty and affection. The red string is not simply a decoration, it is believed to be a witness between two souls. In some villages, the young couple keeps this string for many years, considering it a talisman for their marriage. These practices are not symbols of backwardness or closed-mindedness. They reflect how communities create moral order without written laws. Not everything is dictated by Buddhism or the state. In Cambodia, a large part of social life, especially emotions, is still governed by indigenous spiritual systems, where memories and beliefs act as unwritten rules. Number 7. Spirituality is not on the mountain. In Phnom Penh, Cambodia's largest and most dynamic city, it is not uncommon to see monks walking through the bustling streets alongside smartphone stalls or tuk-tuks waiting at traffic lights. Spiritual space is not in the middle of nowhere. It is embedded in every beat of urban life, present amid the sounds of traffic and the lights of the digital age. One of the places that epitomizes this interweaving is Wat Lanka, located right in the heart of the capital. In the mornings, monks chant according to a ritual schedule. In the afternoons, many city residents come here to meditate after work. On weekends, the temple hosts English meditation classes for expats living in Phnom Penh, attracting locals who want to practice concentration in a high-pressure environment. This is no longer a binding religious ceremony, but a spiritual service with practical effects accessible to many social classes. Phnom Penh's youth are taking a new approach to sacred space. They don't go to temples out of fear of sin or because of rituals. Many come to learn how to slow down, master their emotions, or simply find a quiet place in a city that is growing too fast. According to a 2023 survey by the Cambodian Institute for Religious and Cultural Studies, nearly 48% of urban youth attend Buddhist ceremonies at least once a quarter, not for religious reasons, but to balance their minds and improve their mental health. However, the Cambodian character still lies in silent respect. No matter who you are, the minimum behavior in sacred spaces is always reminded. From childhood, do not touch the head of others, do not sit higher than the monk. Do not laugh loudly in the temple yard. This is not a law, but a social culture that has been maintained continuously for many generations. In residential areas, when a new house is built, the land granting ceremony is still performed. The homeowner invites the monk to chant "Scatter rice, burn incense" to pray for blessings before moving in. In modern buildings, you can see a small altar in the corner of the elevator or on the roof where there is a statue of Buddha or a guardian deity. Social media is no exception to the convergence process. Many monks in Phnom Penh have their own YouTube channels to teach Dharma live stream chanting sessions, answer viewers' questions by quoting precepts or explaining Buddhist philosophy in an applied way. Some TikTok accounts have reached hundreds of thousands of followers, where monks answer questions about life from love family to personal crises. The gentle, practical way of communicating suitable for young people makes the image of Buddhism in urban areas no longer as distant as it is often seen. What is clear is that spirituality in Phnom Penh is not being excluded from modern life. It is adapting. Rituals do not disappear, but the way they are performed changes. People do not abandon faith, but only change how they touch it. And in a city that is transforming vertically, spirituality remains the depth that keeps Cambodians grounded even as they live amid concrete LEDs and 5G masts. From the stone towers of Angkor Wat to the small wooden hut of a mountain girl from the candlelight of Pchum to the red thread tied around the wrist. Cambodia appears as a spiritual map where people beliefs and living space are inseparably linked. These traditions do not reside in museums or history books, but exist every day right in the midst of people's lives. If you find anything in this video that makes you think curious or simply want to understand more about Asian culture, please leave a comment. We always read and appreciate every perspective. And if you find today's journey worth spreading, don't forget to like. Share it with your friends and subscribe to the NVL Travel Documentary channel so you don't miss the next lands we will explore together. Spirituality is not something far away. Sometimes it lies in the way a community lives and holds on to what they believe is right. Cambodia does that in its own very real way.